Hello, everybody. Welcome to our final MXGP TV studio show of the season with me, Paul Malin, and Lisa Leyland. We're at the MXGP of Castilla la Mancha, about 2.5, 3 hours south of Madrid. Pretty much, yeah, well, you know, it's like decent venue, brand new track for everybody. And yeah, we're getting ready to go racing here. But our studio show today, we've got 3 fantastic guests coming in. Actually, we're lying. There's only one fantastic guest. Jason Thomas is going to be in for parts 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do an MX2 wrap, MXGP wrap, and, of course, a Motocross of Nations preview. Before we catch up with Jason Thomas, though, from Fly Racing, Lisa Leyland, here we are. The moment has finally arrived. Yep. The final Grand Prix is upon us, and pretty exciting. 4 champions still to be crowned.
I just don't believe we're here already. I feel like we were only in Argentina a couple of weeks ago.
What?
No?
You bang your head?
No. I'm excited, though, for this weekend.
So
this is what we've been waiting for. And the fact that it's gone down to the final round as well, it's like,
yeah, 4 champions to be crowned. 125 in, yeah, the 125 FMF Racing Championship, 250, MX2 and MXGP. Should we catch up with our first guest?
Yeah.
Let's
do it.
All right. We've already introduced him. Jason Thomas, Fly Racing, all the way from the USA. You're with us for the final studio show at MXGP as well, and, of course, Motocross of Nations in a week's time. Jason, you picked a good one to grace us once again with your presence. MX2, we're going to talk about that first. It's still to be decided. How do you see this one playing out? Obviously, 36 points between Kai, the championship leader, and Lucas Coonan. Brand new venue, though.
Yeah, I think for Kai, he's just going to kind of play it as it comes. Try to be safe. Of course, the championship is top of mind. But I think the opportunity is really here for Lucas, right? Go out, try to win the GP. Try to cause some stress for Kai. Try to, you know, if he's showing signs of nerves or anything like that, really lean into that, you know. And I think it'll be interesting to see if there's any gamesmanship there, if he tries to get him to engage with him in anything like that. But if I'm Kai, I don't even pretend that Lucas is here, right? Go out, run your own race. If Lucas wants to play games, he can do that on his own time. But yeah, World Championships on the line, and race wins are one thing, championships a whole different world, and that's what's most important.
And just looking at some of the stats, 12 podiums each for both of them. The Nistan season has been pretty much standout for them, hasn't it, as well? Because there's 13 pole positions. They've led almost 60% of the laps between them throughout the season. 27 race wins between them. It's phenomenal. And in terms of Husqvarna, they're going to pick up the Manufacturers Award in MX2. They're going to pick up the Team Award in MX2 with Nistan. And they're also going to, you know, be walking away with the champion, whether it's Kai or whether it's Lucas. I mean, phenomenal what they've done this year. It
really has been impressive. Credit to Rasmus and the whole team over there. It'll be their first MX2 championship since Chiodi, I believe.
Yes, in the 125 MX2 class.
Yeah, so it's
and the first in MX2.
Right. That's an incredible effort from them, and they have to be extremely proud. And really, it's been the entire season has been about Nissan Husqvarna, and I think they're facing some shakeups for 2025. So this is kind of a banner weekend for them to go out on top. And regardless of who leaves here with the championship, they deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah.
Kai and Lucas, I guess the difference between them have been their off days. When Kai missed the podium, he had 6 top 5s and a 7th. But when Lucas had a bad GP, 2 10th, 1 11th overall, and a couple of 7th. So in terms of the points, there's a massive difference there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's, you know, that the time-old saying of you win championships on your bad days, I think is really rung true in this series. And if you go back and you listen to interviews or have spoken to Lucas throughout his short professional career so far, it's been this win or crash attitude, right? And I think that will take him a long way. I'm sure it's earned him a lot of fans, but on a championship level, especially as he progresses and moves into MXGP one day, and regardless of where he ends up racing globally, that won't serve him well long term. He's going to have to be willing to accept a podium if things aren't going his way, not get a 12th on that day. And so as much as success as there was, I still think this was a learning year for him. I think he'll look back and say there was a championship in the cards here had I done things a little bit differently, and in the end it'll help him mature.
But that's where Kai's been strong, isn't it? As we said, you know. But that's maturity that's come with Kai, because Kai was once upon a time that rider that was win it or bin it. Yep. Lucas will, you know, as experience and maturity kick in, that will smooth itself out, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think you're just looking at maybe 2 years of maturity between them, age-wise, right? Yeah. And the aspects of that, and you have to be willing to listen to your mentors and people in your corner, and winning is, I think, is such the central idea for Lucas, but World Championships in the end are how he will be remembered, hopefully one day. So, yeah, I think, again, it's just a learning moment. They'll go back and review the season and say, hey, this moment where you crashed, you should have been willing to settle. You have to swallow your pride on some of these days. And I think about the MXGP riders right now. I think about Tim Geiser, who's in championship contention. A day like Lommel, he was willing to settle, take a third or a fourth to stay in the championship long term.
Okay, well, let's move on to Simon Langenfeld. He'll finish third overall in the championship for his third successive season. 12 podiums, the same as Kai and Lucas, but they've only been second and third overall. He's had 5 podiums in 2022, 9 last year. He's had the improvement, hasn't he? But could he have done better, do you think?
Yeah, I spoke with Davide De Carlo a little bit about him, and they point to him being injured a lot of the season. You would see flashes of brilliance, but to consistently be his best self, he struggled with. So I think that's the key for him going into 2025 is just get healthy, be 100%, because when we've seen when he is 100%, he can be a race winner. He's bested these guys at times, but it's such a long campaign. 7, 8, 9 months of racing around the globe, flyaways. There's so much you have to stay your best self for. It's a really tough challenge. So the upside is he can win. There are very few people that can win, but he just needs to figure out how to stay there all season long.
Well, let's just round out the top 5 then. Obviously, Liam Everts unlucky in China with that crash and that injury that's wiped him out for the season and, of course, next week. But he has secured 4th place in the championship. The battle for 5th is still going on between Mikkel Harp and Andrea Adamo, the reigning champion. With just 6 podiums this year and not one of them a Grand Prix victory.
Yeah, I think for Harp, this has been an incredible effort. First year team with Triumph. They've impressed me every step of the way. Whole shots and great results. So I think regardless of how this weekend turns out, this has been a win for that team. For Adamo, yeah, it's a little bit of, I think, reversion to the mean. Last year, everything seemed to go his way, right? Like he wasn't dominant many times last year. He just was always there, so consistent, and things really fell his way at the right time, and he won a world championship in the end. This year, it just seems like it's gone the opposite way. Ill-timed crashes and injuries, and it just all the things that he was able to avoid in 2023, he's fell victim to in 2024.
Yeah. Well, looking at the track here in Qatar, who would these conditions favor the most, do you think?
Well, I think for Kai, and you look at the top 2, they've been the best all year. I think there's a chance for a guy like Simon Langenfelder to come in and win on a day because they're going to be so focused on each other that it's often the rider with no pressure, with no championship aspirations that is going to ride freely, come in and be able to be their best self. So I don't look for Kai to take the win. If I was him, I wouldn't even be thinking about win. I would just be safe, get the start, stay out of trouble, bring it home. So Lucas Koenen or Langenfelder, who I look for to win this weekend.
All right. Well, look, thanks for now, Jason. We are going to take a little break just to promote our Behind the Gate series. Here's a little snippet from episode 17. Numbers game. This is going back to Switzerland. Geiser was on form that day, and part of that clip is him talking about that special victory. It was great to see the return of 2 riders that have been missing for pretty much most of the season. Ruben Fernandez, he's been missing since turn 1 in the qualifying race in Argentina. So for him to run up front the way that he did, great to see, but not easy to do because these guys are racing, they've got their race pace, they've got their fitness, they've got their racecraft, their mind is working super fast. And Maxime Renault as well. 2 foxhole shots. He had some laps at the front as well, but again, just that race pace, that craft, just eluding him. But it's bound to. We've not seen him since round 2. So great to see those 2 back. Riders that those title challengers seriously have to worry about getting involved, getting in the mix.
I mean, I know that from now on, because the championship is getting tighter and tighter, especially we still have 4 GPs to go, so there was not any tactic, From now on, it's just trying to go on the race and try to win as much as possible. Jeffrey came behind me and he started to push when we were like 4th, 5th, something like that. Then I know that it's time, to attack the guys in front of me, and that's what I did.
Oh, freight train, absolutely dynamic. Geiser down the inside. He came from so far back. He was late on the brakes, late to shut off the gas. I don't even think he changed down, did he?
I even feel like when I was riding, like I didn't push the limits, you know, I still have some space.
And as we work our way towards the end of lap 11 here, there's going to be less than a second. Prado looks across the outside, sees Geiser there, 2/10 in it as they hit the line. And he goes outside, and he takes the line away. And he makes the same pass as he did at the start of race 1.
There was no room for error for Tim Geiser. His performances, you know, he didn't make great starts either, but he quickly got to the front. He passed Jorge in the same position both races to take over the lead, and he never looked back either. And he was literally just on another level that weekend.
He rounds out the final couple of corners. Tim Geiser, Team HRC, goes 1-1 here. He wins the Swiss Grand Prix. Hello everybody and welcome back to our live studio show here, part 2, the final Grand Prix of the season, the MXGP of Castilla la Mancha in Kozar, about 2.5 hours south of Madrid. Jason Thomas still with us from Fly Racing, and Jason, that was Switzerland a couple of weeks ago. We're now going to talk, a few rounds ago, we're now going to talk MXGP, and we are really at the business end of the season, aren't we? The final round of the year. Not as close as 2021, although going into the final 2 races, only 3 points. It's now 7 between Tim and Jorge. China was just insane, wasn't it? That 21-point swing going back in favour of Prado, who now arrives as the championship leader.
Yeah, the script writers are really getting this right. The setup going into Spain with this tight of a championship fight. We're 2 hours away from where, you know, Jorge Prado's hometown. So what else could you ask for than this? The suspense, the drama, it really could not be a better setup heading into the weekend.
And obviously, as I said, that 21-point swing in favour of Prado in China. He arrives here as a red plate holder at home. The final GP. Who would you rather be, though, Tim or Jorge? Because obviously, one of them is going to have more pressure. Who's got the most to lose?
I think I would much rather be Prado. Home soil, championship lead. You're going to have this crowd behind you the entire way. And let's face it, he has been absolutely lights out on Spanish soil. He's been almost untouchable.
6 race wins.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So, yes, he's going to be nervous, but so is Tim, right? They're both going to be nervous, but you even on a neutral playing field, I think you'd want to be Prado here. Just that 7 points is going to be a big deal.
Sure.
And Jason, just picking up on what you said, are the odds in Prado's favour? Because he's won all 6 races at the previous Spanish GPs that we've had, and he just totally seems to be unfazed by being at home, by that extra pressure. He's just almost too cool for school at a home GP, isn't he?
Yeah, and I always think about pressure can do one of 2 things. It can either really make you nervous and you don't ride your potential, or it can give you extreme focus and you are able to harness your best self on a day like or a weekend like this. And I think that's the ask of Prado. Can you be your best self on Saturday and Sunday? Because that's what it's going to take. You look at the track conditions. Tim is going to be very fast this weekend, hard pack. We watched how capable he was at Switzerland just a few weeks ago. These conditions, I think, work for both of them. So I expect to see both of them at the front. Does anyone make a critical mistake? That's what it's going to come down to. They're going to get good starts. They're going to be fast. Does anyone make a mistake, or is that 7-point gap just enough? Are they locked at the hip all weekend, and the 7 points is the difference? Yeah.
Well, like you said, 7 points between Tim and Jorge. If Tim wins all 3 races and Prado is second, they'll tie on points. But Prado will get the title just on his race wins. But you're talking about the critical mistake. But who else can come in between them that can make a difference with those points?
Yeah,
well,
I mean, who can or will?
Sure.
Even.
Yeah. I mean, Jeffrey wants to win, right? Like I think he would love to come in, even though, you know, you think about, is there any team things going on with points, and they want to bring that championship home for KTM, Gas, all that. Jeffrey is defiant to the end. He's going to want to come out and, okay, you guys are all talking about Tim and Jorge. I want to win for myself. So you never know on a weekend. Jeremy Seward won a GP not too long ago where I had no idea that was coming. I think that surprised everyone. So much like we talked about in MX2, it's often the riders who have no pressure on a weekend like this that can harness that great result and be the story. That's what it will take, I think, for Tim to win. Someone else becoming a part of the story that no one's talking about that can separate the points. Does that happen or does it not?
Yeah. Well, for a while we had 3 riders in contention, but every time Jeffrey Hurlings got close, that bungee cord, if you like, just yanked him straight back, and the points gap opened up a bit more. And obviously, after China heading into this weekend, it now looks very much like it's a 2-horse race. Of course, he's still mathematically able to win, but needs something drastic to happen ahead of him. So in some ways, a bittersweet season for Jeffrey, but it's his first complete season. He's made it this far. It's his first complete season since 2012. Can you believe that?
Yeah, and in true Jeffrey fashion, right? He races this entire MXGP championship. He goes and wins the British Championship last weekend, right? The guy is a racer through and through. So for him to make it through a full season, I think was a big step. Is he on the top step? No. That's where he wants to be. He's one of the most decorated Grand Prix riders ever. But I think he has to understand the situation he's in. He got race wins. A race like Lommel will go down in history as one of the all-time rides, right? So I think finding the silver lining through some of the things maybe he didn't like so much, you have to look back on it. Will it be a success in the terms of his overall career? Maybe not, but I still think this was a very, very strong season for Jeffrey Hurlings at this stage of his career.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if this was a school report, as head teacher, who would you say should have done better this year?
It's interesting. I really thought that Febvre would have a bounce back year. It took him a long time to get back to 100% and be healthy again. And I just looked like this was his opportunity after a really difficult couple of years to be back. And there were moments where he was strong again, but he really wasn't in the championship fight. There were several weekends where I was scratching my head from afar, kind of wondering what was going on with him. So, if he wasn't so capable and we didn't know what his top end or his ceiling is, maybe it would be okay. But I hold him in a really high regard. This is a multi-time champion. He is a guy that can win on any given day, and there were so many weekends we just didn't see that. So I hate to do that. I hate to put that on Febvre, but I would just say he maybe kind of underperformed expectations in 2024.
Yeah, and then there's a couple in there that have had injuries as well that have kept them out of the game and things like that, and they're now building, hopefully, towards a 2025 season. So, interesting take on the MXGP category.
And the Renaults and those guys, they're coming, right?
Yeah.
They're injured a lot, but there's this top tier of guys which Febvre is in, which I just think he wasn't in the fight enough in 2024.
All right, well, look, stick around. We'll be back in a moment. Jason will be with us in part 3 as well. But before we get back to that part 3, here's another episode from Behind the Gate, another snippet from episode 18, Stranger Things. That's the latest one that's online at the moment. And this is Prado taking the victory in Turkey. Now, this was the Grand Prix before we went to China. And from that side, the points gap was still quite interesting at that point. So enjoy this.
Race 2 was a much better start for Jorge Prado, and on his 145th Grand Prix start, came away with his 145th Foxhole shot. Unbelievably, his 15th of the season. And of course, when he gets into that frame of mind, he's not going to relinquish that. He led every single lap. Tim Geiser pushed him all the way, but wasn't able to find a way through. Not for the lack of trying, I don't think. But also, Jeffrey Hurlings, whilst he was there in third, he had that kind of concertina effect, really. He'd get onto the back wheel of Tim and then lose ground, back and forth. And when he crossed the line in third place, and more than 50 points down, I think 53 points down now on the lead, Tim Geiser, effectively, with 2 rounds to go, you have to assume that his title chance has gone. It's not over, because mathematically it's still possible. But the form that Jorge and Tim are in, and the fact they've had no mechanical DNFs, it's not likely to happen anytime soon, in terms of the technical side of things. Of course, they can DNF in a first-turn crash like anybody can, but realistically, you would have to imagine now Jeffrey's going to China thinking, all right, championship's done. The best I can hope for is second, but even second now is looking further and further away. So, the top 3, it was fun while it lasted. 3 riders, with 3, 4, 5 rounds to go, but heading to the crunch end with 2 to go, we are, I think, looking at a 2-horse race now for this MXGP title in 2024.
Third overall, and just his second visit to the podium in 2024. Kawasaki Racing Team MXGP's Jeremy Seewer, a win in race 1, a 6 in race 2. Second overall, Tim Geiser, Team HRC, a 4th and a 2nd for Tim Geiser. But But Jorge Prado, Red Bull Gas Factory Racing, stands on the top step of the podium. He's all smiles. Your overall winner, a third and a first, his second overall victory here. But Tim Geiser arrived here with the championship leader's red plate. It was 18 at the start of the weekend, down to 14 now. Of our studio show here, the final round as well. Jason Thomas still with us from Fly Racing. That was from Turkey, from our Behind the Gate episode. That was Prado bouncing back, getting the gap down to 14 points. Just goes to show how quickly things can change, doesn't it? Because coming into here, one round later, Prado now has a red plate. He leads by 7.
That's a really tough swing for Tim Geiser. The amount of sleepless nights between China and now have to be very difficult for him, because for a very long time it's felt like he's been in charge, and we know how potent Jorge Prado is, but the points he just couldn't close the gap down, and one bad swing like that. And you could even say he's lucky it wasn't worse, because he could have lost even more points had that been a European round. But what a championship swing there, and the entire feeling of the championship changed in one moment.
Actually, it makes you wonder, doesn't it, how that one-day format that we had in China, because of the typhoon, there was no Ram qualifying race. That could have been the Ram qualifying race. He would have lost less points and then bounced back with 2 good rides on Sunday to salvage something. But ifs, buts, maybe, shoulda, woulda, couldas, gets you nowhere. Let's move on to the motocross, the Monster Energy FI Motocross of Nations. 1 week away from now, the 77th edition of that. We're at Matterley Basin in Great Britain. And we'll start with your guys, Team USA. Finally managed to put a team together. I saw a post on Instagram, from Davey Coombs from RacerX, where he said, plan A, B, C, D, and E. Yep. Now that Eli Tomac is on the team's finally come together, and of course Webb is in for 250 as well. There's been quite a bit of a shake-up there, and actually AP is the only existing member now.
Yeah,
what are your takes on the team that they have?
Well, I think we have 350 million people in the USA, and we're just trying to get 3 riders to show up. We just need 3 people, right? And
you don't ask for much,
no,
do you?
It was an incredibly challenging effort, but in the end, I have to give a lot of credit to Cooper Webb first, because he had to step up, ride a bike that he's not familiar with. He was nowhere near prepared for this event, right? But he still has Major in his mind. You could ask him. We should ask him next weekend. This is an opportunity for retribution from 2016 Majora in his mind, and he's absolutely thinking that way too. And then Eli Tomac, if he doesn't decide on a Monday morning less than a week ago to race this race, Team USA is not coming to Matterley Basin. Sure. We were that close. So I commend all of their efforts and what they've bought themselves now. I don't think anybody's worried about the results anymore, because everybody knows the extreme efforts that they're going to. We've had to put our motorcycles on Delta Airlines jets to get them to England. Heroic efforts by everybody involved now, and I think it's taken some pressure off of the result for them. Yeah.
And how do you think Team USA will do? I guess it all depends on the weather. Maybe, maybe not. But will their heads be in the game?
Yeah, I think so, and I think they'll be less nervous because this was put together at the last second, and they're like, hey, let's just go have some fun. No
time to think about it.
No, and the weather is absolutely the biggest variable. The wetter and the worse the conditions are, I think that's the more challenging for Team USA. We just don't have those conditions. We don't practice in them. We don't really race in them. But on a dry day, if it's a beautiful Sunday afternoon in England, I think a podium's in the cards. A win is going to be challenging because, remember, those 3 have never ridden Matterley before. Yeah. Everybody they're going to be up against is very familiar with that racetrack, so that just adds another ask to it.
But it is a nice open track
for
them to learn easily.
Yep. Yeah, but I just think it's the little nuanced stuff. Yeah. You think about all these races these guys have raced so many GPs on, that has to factor in somewhere.
Okay, well, moving on to Team France. They'll be coming in as the defending champions. You've got Renault, Vial, Fevre. Can they retain that Chamberlain trophy next weekend?
Yeah, I have them as one of the favorites. Right. They have an incredibly strong team, and I look at it, and they really don't have any weaknesses. The only thing I would wonder is Renault back to 100%? Can Fevre be his best self on Sunday? We've seen highs and lows from him throughout the season. For Tom Vial in MX2, we saw how incredible he was at this event. I think you'll see more of the same. He's kind of firing on all cylinders. So I think every team has questions to ask, but France is one of the strongest.
Yeah. Obviously, one of the strongest teams over the last couple of years been Australia. They're going to have eyes on them for obvious reasons. The Lawrence brothers are in. Carl Webster is in as well, and he's won a championship this year back home. Can this be the year that Australia finally get to win? Because they've been third, second the last couple of years. A podium is on the cards for sure. I guess it's just a question of what step.
Yeah, and I've heard this from many Australians. They feel like this is their year. And if it's not this year, it's coming soon because of the rise of Jet and Hunter Lawrence. There is no way to get past that. Two of the most proficient starters that we have stateside in our series, which is a big thing for this race. Getting out front, avoiding trouble, and getting those solid scores. Getting 2 of those 5 scores up in each moto is a big deal. Kyle Webster's going to have a factory Honda, which is a big coup for him. Honda HRC in the U.S. is stepping up to help him. So whether they win or not, that's why they dropped the gate. But this has to be considered one of their best chances ever. And if you've never had an opportunity to watch Jet Lawrence ride in person, show up. Turn on MXGPTV.com because that kid is not from this planet.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, former winners, the Netherlands, they're also going to be in the mix as well. There was a late call-up for the Hoff, Glenn Coldenhoff, in replacement for the unfortunate Calvin Verlainen. But he will be alongside Jeffrey Hurlings and Kai de Wolf. That is not too shabby a team, is it?
No, it's incredible. I mean, you have the likely MX2 world champion on your team. You have Jeffrey Hurlings, who one of the best riders ever. And then Glenn Coldenhoff, this has been his signature event. If you look at through the course of his career.
12 in a row now.
It's unbelievable, his record at this event. So if your replacement, not too much different than Team USA, if your replacement is a rider of Glenn Coldenhoff's stature at this event, you're in a pretty good place. So I don't think there will be a lot of people talking about the Netherlands going in. Those in the know will. But fans, people walking around, especially stateside, that's a team that you can't overlook. If they're standing on the top step on Sunday, I would just shrug my shoulders. Look at their lineup.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. Well, moving on to Team GB. Apparently, it's been 30 years since they last won their nation.
That long?
Yeah.
It felt like that before 2022 for Team USA, to be fair.
3 decades. 3 decades. But the lineup, Tommy Searle, Conrad Muse, Max Anstey. Max went 1-1 there in 2017. In fact, he grew up there. It's pretty much his back garden. What are their chances for a podium on home soil?
Well, weather dependent. Max is going to be on his full Monster Energy Star Yamaha, which helps quite a bit. I think if it's raining, Max comes into play big time. If it's not, we'll see. I think it's an opportunity for Tommy Searle to kind of go out on a big note. This could be his last opportunity at this event, and he's been riding some. Conrad Muse was phenomenal last weekend in Great Britain, so he's on his best form in years. So, again, it's a team that the UK will be excited about. Not many other countries will be thinking about, but I think they are a team with no real pressure because the expectation is low, that in the right situation could surprise a lot of people on Sunday.
Okay, well, Spain will have Prado and Fernandez. Slovenia will have Tim Geiser. You've also got Switzerland will have Siwa. So there's a lot of individual performances there to look out for, isn't there? Yeah,
and I think for Spain, they have a real chance, right? It's can Oriol Oliver show up on Sunday? That was the problem last year. He had a really, really challenging Sunday. We know Jorge is going to be great. He was great last year. Ruben Fernandez, it looks like he's kind of back, and he can win on any given day anyway. It's those teams with the third piece where it's a question. Do they have a good day? Can they show up? Can they get a start against the 450s? Those are all the little subtle things because they're going to have to use one of their scores. No matter what, they're going to have to use at least one of their scores. And if that score is a 23, your chances of being on the podium are very low. Yeah,
and if you don't know the scoring system, it's 1 for a win, 2 for second, 3 for third, right the way down to 40th place. So the impetus is on low scores. And with 3 riders over 3 riders getting the 6 results, obviously you can drop your worst result as well. So that's where it normally comes into play, isn't it, the final race?
Yeah, that MX2 score for so many years has been the most important piece, right? And it could be the same for Cooper Webb for the USA. But it's always in the margins for this race. It's who can avoid the mistakes, who can avoid that DNF, which automatically you lose as your drop score. So then you have this subpar score you have to use. It's why it's my favorite event of the year. There's so much strategy to it. The starting positions, who do you put the MX2 rider on the inside? Do you like all those little decisions really show up in the results on Sunday? That I love that aspect of it.
Well, look, JT, we are out of time. Thanks for joining us in there. Of course, you're going to be in the booth with me this weekend. We're going to do the Riders' Parade on Friday at the Nations next week. And, of course, we're going to be calling all the races live.
We're totally utilising him, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean...
Extracting the Michael.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you are interested in watching the Motocross of Nations course, MXGPTV.com. You can either buy the individual package for it or buy the season package, and you get all of everything that we've had so far this year as well. All MX2, MXGP, 125, 250, WMX, whatever you want. So catch it here on MXGPTV.com. The races, of course, commercial free, even better. Right, we are out of time, but coming up on MXGP TV today, we will be back with EMX 125 Race 1, presented by FMF Racing. That's going to be at 2:55 today. Then we move swiftly into EMX 250. There's 2 champions can be crowned there as well this weekend. Will it be day 1 or day 2? And then the big ones, MX2 and MXGP, ramp qualifying races today, and all the action live tomorrow. From me, from Lisa, that's our final studio show of the season. Thanks to all our guests. Thanks for Jason for dropping in from time to time. What a weekend to have him back. And who's it going to be that stands on the top step? Who is going to be the FIM MXGP World Champion 2024? Stay tuned. See you next time. Bye for now.